Hello and welcome to another edition of the Calm Conversation here on WCTV, a YouTube series on Channel 14 that dives into the career path and time in the Department of Communication for our Waynesburg University students, professors, and alumni. We have a member of our alumni here today, Mr. Kyle Dawson, a graduate of 2017 here at Waynesburg University, the voice of the Washington Wild Things, and may I add, the 2019 Frontier League Robert Ford Broadcaster of the Year award winner. How you doing? And congrats on the award.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. I know this was a thing that you've been planning for a couple of months, so excited to be on with you and talk some communication.
What was it like to win the Robert Ford Broadcaster of the Year award?
I thought you were going to come at that later, but it was awesome. I had found out in an email. It was something that I had been working towards. If you want to say it was on a goal sheet at the beginning of the year where I could cross things off, it definitely was for 2 years. I got an email. We typically in the Frontier League, whether it's midseason All-Stars, postseason All-Stars, all the extra awards, we'll get an email from the Deputy Commissioner, Steve Tasler, who sends out, basically in our case, he sends out which people made it from the Wild Things. So whether it's the Broadcaster Award or there's other awards, obviously, but MVP, Pitcher of the Year, whatever, and postseason All-Star teams were all on that email. So in my email, it had been having issues. The day that we found out, I wasn't able to log on from anywhere but the stadium. We were in O'Fallon, Missouri, actually playing the last regular season series ever for the River City Rascals. And essentially, I got a text from one of the other broadcasters in the league, Aaron Brody, who is the voice of the Florence Freedom, who are undergoing a name change. That's neither here nor there, but he sent us a text, me and a couple of the other broadcasters in the league, and said, hey, I didn't win Broadcaster of the Year. Tell me someone in this group message did. And it would have been me, Aaron, Tim Calderwood, who does the Boomers games, and then Nate Gatter, who's the Gateway Grizzlies voice. But I had been having email issues, so I didn't know what was going on. So I had sent a text to our deputy commissioner and just said, hey, I'm having email issues. Can you forward me the Washington players and the awards email to my Gmail so that I can have stuff ready in my game notes for tomorrow? And I wasn't really expecting to see Kyle Dawson, Broadcaster of the Year, on there, but when I did see it, I know I had called you that night. I called my mother.
That's the most important
one.
Well,
yeah, and I called a bunch of people. I sent a couple of texts. It was a really cool experience, not only to get that email, but the next couple of days, whether it was the players the next day from our guys, our manager, Greg Langben, or whoever it was, just sending a text of congratulations, or when we were at the ballpark, getting that from people. It was a really, really cool honor that I'm really fortunate to have been given.
So in order to win that award, you obviously were the best at what you did in the league. I'll phrase this question like this. This was your second year as a broadcaster in the league. What do you think was your biggest personal improvement from season 1 to season 2?
I think I made a bunch of improvements. Number one, the play-by-play was obviously way better being in my second year than in the first year. I mean, it helped in the first year. You would have known you were in there with me as the intern. But we had a winning season the first year. We went to a championship series, and for me that was easy to call. I mean, we were winning, so it was fun. It was entertaining. It was fun to come to the ballpark every day. This year, not so much. We had the worst record in franchise history on the baseball field. I think that certainly probably helped me a little bit because I had to find ways to keep it entertaining. I had to find ways to keep myself ready to do a game. I had to find a way to keep the audience entertained when the team is 30-60. So I think the play-by-play was certainly an improvement. I think the biggest change that I had made from year 1 to year 2 would be interviewing our manager, our GM. I did Anything But Baseball with Zach Strecker's show. He was our closer and has been the closer for the last couple of seasons. I did a show with him on Fridays. And I think just kind of promoting everything on Twitter and then kind of being out there and engaging with the Frontier League. I sent mid-season All-Star ballots broken down with statistics to the entire media, to everyone that would vote for the Broadcaster of the Year, the managers, the GMs. I sent those to everybody. Same thing for postseason awards, and I think interviewing opposing managers has probably ended up what helped me get the award. I talked to 4 or 5 of the opposing managers on pregame shows, and that certainly helped and was also a good experience just to talk to somebody that's not in my organization, but at the same time to be able to talk to them and kind of delve into their teams a little bit.
I want to dive back into something you briefly mentioned. What were some of the challenges that were presented when you had to announce for a team that was pretty much bad.
Yeah.
You announced for a team in your first year that was one win away from a championship, and then the next season, pretty much the exact opposite.
Yeah, I mean, it was brutal from the beginning. I mean, there were stretches. The beginning of the year, we lost the first game, or we won the first game of the year in extra innings. It was a comeback. Our starter, Mike Austin, had given up 3 home runs in the first inning. It's like, oh God, where are we going from here? But we ended up coming back and winning that game in the opening night, and then I think we did not win a game the rest of that original series. I think we won 1 of 3 in Schaumburg in the second series of the year, and to be honest, it was brutal. I didn't know what to do with myself. Even after the first week, I'm like, wow, this is way different. I mean, we had a bad start in 2018 from the Wild Things on-field perspective. I mean, they won the first series in Evansville, and then I think we ended up like something like 4-5 or 4-6, but it wasn't a great start. But there was certainly a low point. It was challenging. We were at 9-21, I think was the record. It was the worst night I've ever had as a broadcaster. I mean, I came home we were on the road at Southern Illinois, and I came back from a loss, and I was just drained. I didn't know what to do. I mean, I sent you a text. I sent some texts to Tim Calder, when I mentioned him earlier. I sent texts to a bunch of people just saying, hey, how do I deal with this? Because I have no idea what I'm doing here, and it's like I don't even want to be in the booth right now. I'm not having fun. And I mean, a lot of that was just me not knowing how to deal with it because it was my first time doing it. But I think once we got through the first couple months, it just became about, taking it day by day. As much as a coach cliche as it is to say we're 1-0 today or we're 0-1 today, that was kind of the mentality I took. I went in looking to have a good pregame show. That'd be 1-0. If I had a good first inning, that'd be 2-0 to settle in, and then I would go from there and just try to have a good broadcast every night, even with the bad record and with the bad play.
So when it goes to a broadcast, there are more things that go into a broadcast than what meets the eye to a person watching, especially from your perspective.
Yeah.
Game notes to assemble, social media to updates, recaps to assemble after the game takes place. How do you balance all of those aspects?
It's not easy. You're there for a long time. I mean, this past summer I wasn't full time, so I wasn't there at 9 a.m. Thankfully, I wasn't the last. In most cases, I was the last one to leave the ballpark. I'm not complaining about that. I mean, that's part of the job. It's the tricks and trades. But I think my biggest issue with the workload was I didn't really have any help this past summer. So I was doing a 14-page copy of game notes every single night, and every single one of those 14 pages at some degree or another had to be updated. Whether it was one thing and on like the game-by-game schedule where I would just put the win-loss save in and update the record. I mean, that's an easy update. That takes a minute. But it's the rest of it. I mean, 2, 3 hours, 4 hours at times doing the game notes every day. And then having to do the recap videos after the pregame videos, the postgame press releases. And it's a lot of work, and it certainly is something that I've learned over the 2 years to balance to the point where I'm pretty confident in my workload and having a routine every day where I would wake up at a certain time. I set my alarm. I'm doing the game notes here. I'm taking a lunch break here. I'm finishing the game notes, and I'm leaving for the ballpark. So I think you get into a routine, you end up okay with that, but it is a lot of work, and that's something that everyone in minor league baseball has to deal with. It wasn't just me.
So let's shift to your college days at Waynesburg. You did a ton at Waynesburg. I'm going to ramble here for a second. WCTV sports director, WCYJ-FM station general manager, and later content director, WUSN, I don't know why I said that, Waynesburg University Sports Network producer for multiple years, assistant sports editor with the Yellow Jacket, helped with sports information stuff. How did all of those experiences help to shape your career, you think?
A lot would be the short answer to that. I think when I got here, and you talked about Donnie with this on one of your shows, Donnie graduated a year after me. I certainly did enough to the point where I felt like I was prepared for anything coming out of school, whether it was behind the scenes or being on camera and being on a headset. I think everything here, and I really can't, it's hard to put into words for me because I am so thankful for every opportunity that I had here, whether it was the station, the radio station downstairs, whether it was the TV station, producing a show, being on shows, whether it was Woosen, being the producer, being an announcer, just kind of leading a group of people. That certainly helped too. The newspaper obviously helped me in writing recaps, and I can write for the Trib now on the side when I'm working with the high school sports network, and that's something that they have confidence in me to do because I've done it. And I think that was the biggest thing of me taking as much as I did onto my plate at Waynesburg, was that I kind of set myself up, and with that idea I was going to kill myself in college in the way that I was doing too much almost, but I was doing it for the end game of being out and being able to say that I can write, I can broadcast, I can record on camera, I can work in the back from a production standpoint. I can do all of these things because I was involved in so much at Waynesburg, and I quite frankly, I know it's a cop-out kind of, but I can't put into words how much the experience here helped me.
Let's talk about Trib. You mentioned that briefly. What has that experience been like announcing high school sports? If you're unfamiliar with what the Trib Live High School Sports Network is, it's a media outlet that covers high school sports in the WPIAL or District 7 in statewide athletics in Pennsylvania. What has that experience been like broadcasting and writing for the Trib Live High School Sports?
It's been awesome. So I started with the Trib as a junior here at Waynesburg, and it was on a recommendation from Lanny. I mean, I had known, back then it was the MSA Sports Network. I'd known a ton about them. When I was in high school, I would see them at our games at Plum, and kind of be like, wow, I really want to do that someday. Because at high school sports, you grow up in this area, and if you're a sports guy like I was, you know that high school sports are everything in this area in Western Pennsylvania. So I absolutely wanted to do it all along. So I started as a junior, still obviously doing it now. I'm still waiting on some opportunities, like I'm still waiting on the chance to do play-by-play at Heinz Field. It's a dream of mine. I've done baseball championships. I've done basketball championships at the Peterson Events Center, which was another thing off the bucket list for me. But to put it shortly, it's been awesome. I've really enjoyed working with Dawn, Rebel, Justin LeBar, who's taken over as our GM in the last couple of years since the transition from MSA happened. I've enjoyed working with everybody. I enjoy working with an array of partners. I didn't really get the chance to do that when I was at Waynesburg. I just had Andy Stanko with me for the last 2 years, and that was pretty much it. And it's not a knock to him or not a knock to you or Jack Hillgrove, who was our intern at the Wild Things this year.
Get some variety.
I do. I like the variety. I like to try to mesh with other people and see how my style goes with them, and other things bug me about that, but it's certainly a good experience to be able to work with other people. And I think if you can prep, I've said this a lot, if you can prep for high school football or high school sports, especially like a volleyball or a soccer, you're just going to have a field day with a Division I athletics program, or even coming back to the PAC and doing stuff for Randy for the PAC Sports Network or whatever it is. You're going to have a field day prepping for that, because if you can prep for high school where there isn't a lot of information, then you're going to be in really good shape. Writing's been fun too. It's certainly something that has come on in the last year and a half or so. Where I'm just writing recaps. I haven't really had the chance to write feature stories or anything, but writing a player of the week every week for the PIHL, for the Hockey League, writing a team of the week for the same thing. Those are things that I enjoy doing. I mean, it's a little extra beans in terms of money, which certainly helps, but it's also something that I enjoy doing, and certainly had the experience here at Waynesburg to be able to be prepared for that.
How much do you think time management has helped you in your career?
A lot. I would say it wasn't very good at Waynesburg. I mean, I would go to bed sometimes at 3 or 4 in the morning. I mean, it was ridiculous at some points here. I think I've learned, though, especially we were talking earlier about the Wild Things, the media relations side, and doing game notes and trying to get into a routine. I got it to a point where I could do the game notes in probably 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours. And when we were on the road, you binge watch a lot of shows, on Netflix. Be that I watched Breaking Bad for the first time this past summer. I mean, you've learned to fit things in so that you can still enjoy the road life, or you can still have a life outside of broadcasting. So I certainly think that time management is absolutely massive. You've got to know how to fill time. You've got to know when the right time is to do stuff. You've got to be able to do it in a timely manner. And you've got to be able to juggle stuff. I mean, when I was at Waynesburg, I was trying to juggle, you rattled them off earlier, I was trying to juggle 5 different organizations at a point, which was difficult. And you know, I want to give everyone the attention at that point that the program or the organization, the co-curricular deserves. That's something that was a hard process and a hard thing to, I guess, come to fruition might not be the right way to put it, but in order to learn how to do that, it took a long time. But time management is hugely important, and anyone coming through Waynesburg knows that. And once you get into the real world, I mean, you've got deadlines, you've got other stuff that you've got to do. So time management is certainly a huge key to any success that I have outside.
We're talking with Kyle Dawson here on the Calm Conversation, a spring of 2017 graduate here at Waynesburg University. A couple more questions for him before we let him go here for the night. What is some advice that you'd give to a freshman who is about to start their Waynesburg career?
That's a good question. I get asked that all the time, whether it's you on this type of setting, or I've come back and spoken to the kids at sports broadcasting camp and they've asked me that question. I think that my biggest advice is get involved. There's no, I mean, we preach it. We kind of beat it into people's heads here as upperclassmen, leaders in the department, where, you know, we're telling kids, if you don't get involved, you're not going to have the experience that you need to or could have here at Waynesburg if you're only doing the broadcast, or if you're only writing for the paper, or, you know, and that goes, you know, it's a domino effect everywhere else. But I think that's my biggest piece of advice: get involved. And in order to get involved, you need to be able to do more than one thing. If you can do more than one thing going out of Waynesburg, you're in great shape, because then you can apply for, you know, X amount of areas of different jobs in different departments at news stations or radio stations, wherever it may be. If you can do more, the versatility the better, which means that you need to get involved, and get involved as early as possible when you're here.
What do you think has been the biggest challenge of your young career?
The easy answer would be dealing with the worst regular season in Wild Things history in 18 years. I don't know. I think the biggest challenge for me is I'm still in the job searching process. I'm trying to get into minor league baseball and see where that takes me. I think that's the hardest part. I think that's the part that, excuse the little bit of a foul term here, but sucks the most. I will apply for jobs and not hear back from some people, even that, hey, I received your application materials and we're going to consider you for the job. Like, I haven't even gotten that from some places. I think that's the hardest part of the job. It's the rejection. And that might just be me more than other people. I don't like to deal with that. I don't like to get told no. And I mean, it does make you work harder. It does make me pay attention to more detail, even to the point where I'm slamming my fists off tables during broadcast, because I want to be perfect. I want to be as close to perfect as possible. I don't want to make mistakes. So I don't have to face that rejection. I think that's the hardest part of it, other than having a 31-54 season, whatever it ended up being with the Wild Things. I mean, it was really challenging, and I kind of joke about it at times, but being able to put on a good broadcast every night and being focused on that singular game was very difficult for the better part of the stretch run.
What do you think was the proudest moment you've had as a broadcaster or in your career? A winning broadcaster of the year is probably
that's
up
certainly,
there.
I think that's certainly my favorite accomplishment, or the one that I hold most dear. Because I told you before, and I've told you this separately from this era as well, I wasn't expecting it. I mean, I thought I had a chance. I thought I was probably one of the best 5 broadcasters in the league. I'm a pretty confident guy in the grand scheme of things. So, but I think that was my biggest accomplishment, my most proud accomplishment, is because I didn't think I was going to get it. And seeing my name on that email and end up getting all the congratulatory texts, the tweet interactions was awesome. I mean, I can't put into words how humbled I was to get that award, how appreciative I was for all the people who voted for me, and hopefully that pushes me to bigger and better things in my career. But I think there's other accomplishments that I'm proud of. I'm proud of being able to be at Heinz Field and broadcast football games. I'm proud of being able to go to the Peterson Events Center and do that. for basketball championships. I mean, there's all the little stepping stones in my career that I'm really, really proud of myself when I do get to that and when I think I do well at them, that I certainly put up there as pegs. But I think the broadcaster of the year, it sounds like a cop-out answer probably, but that's probably the easy answer to what my most proud accomplishment is.
All right, final question, and then we'll let you go. If you could give advice to a younger version of Mr. Kyle Dawson, let's say 5 years ago,
goodness.
what would you tell the man?
I don't know. You asked Donnie this earlier, and I was thinking about what I would say if you asked me. Because I've told you about getting involved here at Waynesburg. If I would have went back and talked to freshman Kyle at Waynesburg, it would have been get even more involved, or do more, work harder. It sounds ridiculous, but I think my biggest piece of advice, maybe if I go back to my high school days, would just be to kind of expect rejection, expect that you're going to have to work way harder than you even think that you have to work to get places and to do things well. And I think that's the biggest piece of advice I'd give myself, would be to work harder, if that at times is possible, but certainly something that I think is really important.
Kyle, much appreciated,
yeah,
sir.
No problem. Enjoyed it.
Join us next time on WCTV's The Calm Conversation, and we'll talk to more Waynesburg University students, professors, and alumni. Catch you next time. Retweet.